and CEO, BellaNaija. Denim Richards, actor and founder, Khumo Studios. Adebola Williams, chairman, AW Network and founder, Red for Africa. Our moderator for the session, Tania, Habinmana, anchor, CNBC Africa.
Welcome back, everyone. So excited to dive into this conversation about my second favorite topic, the media landscape and the changing nature of it. Uche, I want to start with you. You started BellaNaija roughly 17 years ago, and a lot has changed. A lot has changed. We live in a world where I think pretty much, safe to say that pretty much everybody in this room probably has at least one mobile phone. We have social media, the advent of digital technology. How are you viewing this? How has this changed the way you run your business?
Honored to be here today, and Botswana is beautiful. I think I am ready to move. Sorry. Sorry, Nigeria. Okay, when you said 17 years, I was shocked because I'm like, I'm like 30 under 30, like 17 years, are you sure? But seriously, it's been such a journey, and what it goes to show, it just shows the power of technology and innovation. A lot can happen in a decade plus. In terms of what we have been able to do at BellaNaija to still be at the very top of our game, even all these years later, as you said, we existed before TikTok and Instagram. It's hard to imagine a world before then. And there are two key things that we've done. One is continuing to innovate. Each day, we're asking ourselves, how can we do things differently? How can we do things better? And that is a big question. So for us at BellaNaija, what we did was that when these platforms emerged, rather than seeing them as a competition, we gave it to ourselves as another platform to engage our audience. So that's why on Instagram, we have, I think, over 6 million followers in total. On Twitter, we have over 1 million, etc. across all social media platforms, including TikTok. And the second thing I would say, which is really fantastic, is the power of young African minds. We've been so blessed to have amazing, creative, talented young Africans work with us as BellaNaija, including some who have actually graced the Forbes 30 under 30 list, which just shows how remarkable they are. And these people come in and have been able to bring fresh ideas that we've been able to build on. So innovation and the creativity of young Africans.
Brilliant. Now, you talk about 6 million followers. Now, what's interesting with followers is that every follower has a follower. So we are all, in a way, media platforms of our own, especially when we look at some of the recent events, when we look at just what happens in terms of, unfortunately, wars and civil outbreaks, etc. It's very quick for someone to take their phone out and to become a reporter in their own right. But the flip side to that, it also means that each one of us could become a potential ambassador of our own countries. So Adebola, you've been working a lot on political campaigns, activism campaigns. How do you view this?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's lovely to be in Botswana for a second time. I already have a home here, Uche, so I beat you to it. I think that we're an interesting time in the world, particularly as Africans, as young Africans who are constantly faced with bias and stereotypes when we travel and move around the world. When you find me in Champs-Élysées, Oxford Circus, Manhattan, anywhere you find me in the world, I am dressed this way. I say to people, I carry the burden and the blessings of my people. But I have a responsibility. Yes, you can click to that. But I have a responsibility to be at my best self everywhere I go. Because I want to leave an impression that when next an African, a Nigerian, walks into that room and makes a pitch, they have faith in him. When next you get an email from an African, from a Nigerian, you remember me and say, oh, of course, it's a country like the US, like the UK, where you have, hardworking people and at the same time interesting people. And so the simple thing is that we have the new power, the new force in our hands, where every one of us every day can make a conscious decision to tell one positive tale about our countries. One positive tale about the continent. The internet is already full with all the negative stories. You don't need to add to it. The internet is already full with the pictures of malaria and the hungry children. You don't need to add to it. You are the new generation. I've been blown away by the kinds of young people I've met. I was Forbes 10 years ago. Some an old man, but not old, But seriously, I think to summarize is the fact that the new atomic bomb lies in our hands. This thing is destroying and is also building, and you need to choose what side of the fence you want to sit.
But now with that, while I love what you're saying, the flip side to that is that we're portraying a certain idea of Africa. And I'm sure that most of us have experienced or at least heard the rhetoric of, but you're only showing one side of Africa. What about the other side? And I think particularly when we're talking about the power of storytelling and the fiction world, movies, series, television, how do we tell the truth and fully maximize on the potential and the opportunity while still showing the reality? Denim.
So this works. I also love Botswana, and I'm happy to call Botswana home. So I'm really happy to be able to be here. So this is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful moment. But I think more importantly, like he was just saying, that we have so much opportunity to change the narrative. And I think for Africa, over the course of the last 300, 400, 500 years, there's been a one-sided story being told. And so I think that it's okay if we start to celebrate another side of it, that we don't need to spend so much time getting caught up in, well, what is the reality? Because all over the world, when we're watching movies, whether it's from Europe or from the Americas or from Asia, they're not worried about whether or not they're showing the totality of their country or the things that are going on there. And so I'm a firm believer that we have a great opportunity and responsibility now as this next generation to be able to learn how to take these genuine stories. And the issue in Africa has never been about the creativity or lack of stories. It's just been whether or not we understand the full part of the execution, right? How do we get the funding? How do we get the financing? How do we get those bigger corporations that have money to understand how it is that this business of entertainment actually makes money? And I think now this is our job to be able to teach, how do you write a proposal? How do you go into certain meeting areas and things of that nature, other than just saying, hey, I'm a really passionate artist, invest in me, right? So I think now that is part of one of the things that we're doing at Khumo Studios, is kind of doing more of that capacity training and teaching more on the business of entertainment, because we can't say it enough. This entire industry is a business. Yep. And the passion is great, but if you don't know how that passion turns into money and turns into a business, you'll never be able to scale it properly.
Now you're touching upon my first love, which is business, and which I believe touches all industries. Now going to that, you're talking about so many things that are quite strong, but I want to hone in on the aspect of teaching and the aspects of the next generation. Uche, how do you view this? And I'm particularly thinking about the youth, how we can empower them, how we can create an environment where they can succeed, and particularly thinking about that in a digital world.
The most fascinating and exciting things about digital is the breadth of opportunities. So many amazing opportunities. As Adebola said, with a mobile phone, it can be the ultimate distraction, but it can be such a source of empowerment. When we look at digital jobs, there is such a breadth of opportunities in every single sector. That is what makes it so exciting. And there are two sides of it. Of course, I see that Botswana has a Ministry of Entrepreneurship, which is fantastic. There's a job creation side. So with each person, I remember starting as a 22-year-old entrepreneur. And I remember when I had the first person and the second person and the third person, and it just kept on growing from there. And I was able to do this without the regular gatekeeping. Previously, people had to go into certain institutions and tick certain boxes in order to create opportunities for themselves and for others. But with digital, a lot of these walls have been broken down, and that's really exciting. In terms of practical advice for anybody who is exploring this space, I'll say the first things first is that self-reflection. Figure out what you want to do. Right now, with the internet, with everything, there is an overload of information. It is very easy to be overwhelmed. So that self-reflection away from that noise is fantastic to say, do you know what do I want to create, or what do I want to do? Once that part is done, it is now connecting to the next stage, which is the opportunities. Over the last couple of months, actually, the edtech sector has really exploded. There are so many digital platforms where people can go on, and for pretty reasonable prices, and even in some cases with some innovative finance models, for them to learn practical skills that can give them access to various jobs out there. In terms of what I would like to see differently, there is something really unique about our continent, and even coming to Botswana for the first time shows me that. Like, Africa is next level. We are the future. And we don't have to replicate everything that is being done in the Western world. I think that there's a secret sauce in us doing things our way, looking at some of our traditional industries and not saying, okay, let's dump this and replicate what's being done elsewhere, but saying, you know what, we have access to this technology. What are the new and exciting opportunities that we can create based on this? So I'm super excited about the opportunities for digital jobs. I see African companies hiring people not only around the continent, but around the world. And I would really love to see more collaboration on our continent. Events like this serve a very good purpose, but there's so much potential for us to do more. So I'm so excited. I know that within the next couple of years, we're going to see some awesome stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, when we talk about bringing an African flavor, and I'm paraphrasing what you've just said, but bringing an African flavor to the landscape, when it comes to the VC landscape, people talk about not trying to find the next African unicorn, but looking for a zebracorn or an elephantcorn, or, you know, something that is unique to us. I wonder what that looks like when it comes to media, because what we're talking here is we're talking about representation, but we're also talking about fighting biases. Now, Adebola, you've talked about how everywhere you go, you're dressed like this. What do you think of the way that Africa is being represented at the moment?
I think it's fine now. You know, that's why I do what I do. Africa has been, you know, portrayed in an interesting light. You know, it's 2023. But people still ask you about monkeys and lions, and it's no longer, you know, funny. But then I know that it comes from a place of ignorance, you know, so I rise above them. When they go low, you go high, you know. But I think that what is important is for us to step into our power and own our story. That's what I think is most important. That you are a moving billboard for your race, your color, your generation. And that you must be aware. Do not be deceived. The world still operates in boxes, in the lenses of boxes. They still box you. You're this, you can do this. You're that, you can do that. When I began my business in 2003, 20 years ago, I'm 37 now. And at 17, you know, yes, I'm really old. And at 17, I began my business. I faced the prejudice of young people, of youth. I faced the assumption that because I was young, I wasn't capable, I didn't have confidence, I didn't have capacity. And it took me quite a lot to get people to buy into my dream. Many years of my starting out, I worked as a seed, not for free, as a seed to build capacity, to build trust, to build respect. And every dime of sweat I sowed, I got them back, eventually monetized. And so do not be afraid to own your story as Africans. And do not be afraid to play the game in starting out, in making some sacrifices. It will come back to you. You have a dream, go for it. You have an idea, run with it. Every day you strive and you achieve something, you give somebody else the permission to dream. And I think that is what is most important for us in Africa. The fact that every single one of you can give permission to another young person in Guguletu, in Kokrobite, in Tamale, in Surulere in Lagos. If they can dream because of you, they can aspire to that door, then you've already succeeded.
Absolutely. And I want to put out a challenge. Let's challenge ourselves over the next 2 days to sow seeds of inspiration amongst ourselves and to other people. Like we said earlier, we all have a mobile phone, we have social media. Let's make it a point to sow those seeds. Now, still on the topic of representation, I know for me, as a young girl, what it meant to see someone look like me on screen, to see someone speak like me, to see someone come from the same place as me. Denim, do you think that we are where we're supposed to be when it comes to representation?
Hello? Okay. No, I think we have a lot of... we are doing a good job, but we're nowhere near where we should be, in my opinion. You know, if we're just talking about the continent, we have so many stories, right, that need to be told, and the landscape is so vast and it's so rich, and the opportunity. And now I think what we're seeing is that all eyes are on Africa. And so there's countries all over the world that are looking towards Africa, and they're saying, what stories are there? Who is there? The partnerships and things. And this is exactly what she was just talking about as well, about that needing to work together, right? Not working in these silos, but being able to do what countries all over the world have been doing, which is working together. And we have so many countries just in Africa where we should actually be working together, and we would be able to do things so much faster. And I think that that is going to help us get representation out there faster in a way that is more powerful and palpable. I do think that the world is more accepting now of the way that we're telling our stories and how we're telling our stories, even though we should never have to ask anyone for permission to tell our stories the way that we want them. But I think that if we can continue to work with one another, and we allow an event like this to be a catalyst, right? But what's more important is what happens on Friday and what happens on Saturday.
Exactly.
Are we going to continue to talk with one another? Are we going to continue to do something? Because otherwise you kind of get into these moments, you kind of get drunk with the opportunity and so much influence. But then Monday comes, and now you actually have to do the actual work. And that's part of that entrepreneur, where I'm a big believer that you can't be an entrepreneur and be entitled. So part of that being the entrepreneur is that you have to be willing to work with one another, put your ego aside, and build. And when we do that, we're going to have a very, very powerful Africa.
Absolutely. Now, Uche, you were one of the first media platforms of your nature in Nigeria. And to actually hear of your journey and reaching 6 million followers is really a feat. But I'm sure it wasn't without challenges. What would you say, looking back, has been the biggest lesson that you've learned that has come out of those challenges?
So in terms of lessons and challenges, of course, you know, sometimes on these panels, it's easy to come up and just give a glossed overview. There are challenges every single day, from getting people who have the right capacity to deliver in the jobs, to other external challenges, infrastructure challenges that unfortunately we still face on the continent. But for me, and the mindset that I've taken throughout the journey, and the mindset I also encourage for others, is every one of these challenges is really an opportunity for us to step up and create something new. For us, for example, early on, there was very limited digital advertising taking place. People would not understand what we're trying to say. But guess what? We created a monetization model that was able to be even used by other digital media companies around Nigeria and around Africa. So it was that challenge to create, hey, there's nothing like that, figure it out. Another thing is, always create value. So that value creation is just a game changer. So that's looking at every situation and saying, you know what, how are we going to create value out of this? And once value is being created, it will attract what you need to attract. In terms of people, as I said before, we have amazing, amazing, brilliant people on the continent. And sometimes the peculiarities of our environment is that you're going to have to do a lot of in-house training. But guess what? Being able to do in-house training also gives you that capacity for training. That means you can hire even more amazing people. Yeah. So that was just the mindset that we took, and we just kept it moving. We're in a space where we can legit spend the whole day just sinking into 1,000,001 problems that exist. And that's the truth. Should we not recognize those problems? No, we should recognize them. Should we not challenge our governments to work with us to support and solve them? Of course we should. And I'm happy to see actionable governments taking action around the continent, including here. However, that mindset that, look, every problem is solvable, every problem is an opportunity, there is value to be created, and just keep it moving. So in terms of what I tell myself is, there's nothing unsolvable. Let's do this. And then just going for it, yeah.
Absolutely. Nothing unsolvable. But talking about value creation, I keep getting astounded at how content creation is becoming cheaper and cheaper. I literally see teenagers, even children, being able to become content creators in their own right and playing with their mobile phones, etc. But in light of this, I'm quite curious to hear from you, Adebola, because it basically opens up to a world of possibilities in terms of what we can actually put our investments in. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for investment?
I think on the continent now, it's music, content creation, movies, fashion. IP is the new gold for the continent. Everywhere you turn, everyone wants a piece of Africa, an infusion of our country, of our material, of our music, in everything globally. They're looking for us. Burna Boy is at, all the big stages around the world, Nigerian music, the food, everything. And so the world is paying attention. And it is now time for investments that are direct into young Africans. Oftentimes, they get to get the larger end of the stick, of the opportunity, of the profit. It is now time to change the game, but young Africans also have to step up to prepare themselves for the opportunities that are coming. This is the home of talent. It's raw, it's rooted, it's unique, it's different. And so we have to be bold. The world is paying attention like never before. The next 5 years, you're going to see a huge change in our media industry. I mean, Amazon, is in Nigeria now, and they just signed an amazing deal with Jade Oshibere, one of the biggest directors out of Nigeria. She's conquered the country. She's about to conquer the world with Amazon. Netflix is buying our films, partnering with Ebony Life, buying films of young creators, Kenneth Gang, and so on and so forth. Disney is coming. And so when they come, will they meet you? Will you be ready? I'm blown away, of course, by the many young people here today, but you should also, if you're in that space, content, or you're not, begin to think about your business from an IP perspective. How do I monetize my business? And then finally, the internet is an oyster. It's limitless. Every business you have must have a world on the internet. If the internet is not making money for you, it's taking money from you. And so don't just be a statistics in the marketing boardroom. Create something. And finally, like the pastors say, last year, I launched a company called AW Network, which I chair. And it's an investment company. We invest in tech businesses and media businesses. So if you're in the room and you have a media business, an IP idea, a tech business, and you're looking for funding, you want to make films, you want to do, create some TV show, anything, once you can show us, possibilities. Without collateral, we can bank on your ideas. So you can check out awnetwork.co on Instagram, or find me, Adebola Lagos, on Instagram. And let's make some action happen from here.
Fantastic. Real, tangible investments being made. Denim, I actually want to come to you next. In closing, part of your mission statement with Khumo is to teach, train, and equip our people with the necessary skills to compete in the entertainment industry. With all of what has been said, we're talking content creation, we're talking IP protection, we're talking digital jobs. All of this relies on skills and talent development. How can we best harness Africa's talent?
Yeah, I think it's a great question and very, very important. I think that's the theme, is capacity building, and you have to be willing to not always want to just be in front of the camera. There's so many things that we have to do, behind the camera, and part of what we do at Khumo is we go around the country and we do acting classes. We teach about the business of entertainment. We go all over the continent teaching governments and businesses about how you make money in the world of entertainment. And so I think it's really, really important that you learn that you have so many opportunities. And as she was saying, that any problem is an opportunity. That's what being an entrepreneur is. You shouldn't get upset that, oh, there's not this or there's not that. Look at that as a space that you can get into. And not every single thing that you're passionate about is gonna be the thing that you're gonna make a career of.
Yeah.
And so you may find that you're actually doing your career right now. You just don't know about it because in your mind, you want to be in front of the camera. So there's so many opportunities in that way. I would say that for every single entrepreneur, you need to make sure that you're always equipping yourself, keeping forward with the way that the world is going, so that when opportunities do come, you're fully prepared and equipped.
Fully prepared and equipped. It's on that note that we're going to close this panel. Thank you so much to all of you, our audience, and to my fantastic panelists. It's been amazing.